Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and welcome to my Week 2 Team Builder and Battle for Season 3 of the UBL. We are going up against HeraHorde and his SL Banefica. I think it's how it's pronounced. I know it's only 3 syllables, and that's not Banefica, which I think is how a lot of people pronounce it. So hopefully I got a little bit closer if I didn't get it exactly right. Make sure you go check Hera out. Down in the description below is his link, along with the links for all the other coaches, of course. If you did miss our Week 1 battle, do recommend you check it out. We went up against DeathlyiAm and a very scary squad of his that featured Mega Kangaskhan and HeraHorde and stuff like that. We were fortunate to come away from that game with a 3-0 dub, not without some help from my Electivire getting a freeze onto his Nidoqueen. But we definitely have a tough matchup once again here in week number 2. Let me just read off the roster that you guys can see, of course, on the screen. He has Zygarde 50%, Heatran, Starmie, Alolan Ninetales, Roserade, Uxie, Gastrodon, Scrafty, Regirock, Rotom, and Mega Pidgeot. And so it's a very good team, honestly, like from top to bottom. A lot of the mons are very like if you're thinking in terms of like Smogon tiers, like a lot of them are definitely OU viable. Like Zygarde is banned from OU. Starmie and Heatran are both great mons. Ninetales with Veil is very good. Mega Pidgeot is awesome. Gastrodon has a lot of viability in OU for checking electric types and stuff like that. So yeah, he just doesn't really have a weak link on the whole draft. Like there's like even his tier 4, tier 5 picks are pretty solid, I would say. So it's definitely hard to deal with. I say like tier 4 and tier 5, like I'm just approximating. We didn't actually have tiers for this draft, but I digress. Number 1 threat, I think, first and foremost, is definitely that Zygarde. I don't really have a proper 1,000 Arrows resist on my team because I don't have a bug type or a pure grass type. Like my grass type has a secondary typing that makes it more vulnerable to 1,000 Arrows because Steel is obviously weak to ground, so my Ferrothorn does not resist. So I've had to build my team somewhat carefully so I don't lose to any potential shenanigans from Zygarde. There's other threats for sure, like DD Scrafty is scary, set up Ninetales. It does get both agility and nasty plot, so we have to watch out for that. And then like if I just don't play my cards right, I could end up in a position where I'm swept by like Mega Pidgeot with Hurricane. Or like something weird like Scarf Roserade, Scarf Starmie. Like Starmie with Water Stab versus my team is very scary. I don't have amazing water resist. I'm only bringing 1 of my 2 water resists. So I have to be very aware of Starmie. So that's my thought process going into the battle. Zygarde, Starmie are probably the 2 biggest threats, but then he can just very easily, if he wears down the proper responses to things, definitely take me out with something that I'm not expecting, like Scarf Roserade or Mega Pidgeot or something like that. So I have a lot of fat this week, and let's just kick off with our first one. We do have a basically fully Fizdef Togekiss, Roost Defog, Dazzling Gleam, Aura Sphere. So Dazzling Gleam allows us to hit Zygarde pretty hard. It does like 50 to 60% to non-bulky variants of Zygarde. And then basically Dazzling Gleam hits everything except for like Heatran, so we put Aura Sphere on here for that. We don't have Air Slash, so we can't actually hit Roserade that hard with this spread, but I don't think that Togekiss wants to stay in on Roserade most of the time anyway, because it often will outspeed and be able to hit with super effective Sludge Bomb. He might not even know that, so he might not like switch this thing in on it, but I don't think that we can like threaten out a Roserade is what I'm trying to say. But because neither of these moves actually have secondary effects, there's no point in running SareneGrace. So I'm actually running Super Luck this week, so we get a boosted chance to crit, which is pretty nice. As much Fizdef as we can, like we even went full Fizdef over max HP, just so we could deal with Zygarde as effectively as possible. Put a little bit into speed here, just so we could outspeed a max speed Scrafty. In case we need to do that, because Scrafty is pretty well checked by this Togekiss. Like, even if he's like DD Poison Jab, we should be fine to take that thing on. Yeah, so this is mainly a Zygarde response. Depending upon what his other mons are, like Scrafty, I probably won't rely on Togekiss as much to deal with Zygarde. It also depends on the hazard situation. So if he has up rocks but not spikes, I'll probably use other Pokemon. But if he has up spikes but not rocks, I think Togekiss will definitely be the Zygarde response. It doesn't take more than 50% from a +1 arrows, so that's pretty nice. If he does, like in that situation, like I said, have up rocks instead of spikes, I think I can definitely rely on my Swampert to check here. So I have Earth Beam, Ice Beam, Earth Power Ice Beam on this Swampert. I really wanted to go special over physical, like with Ice Punch, for 2 reasons. One, if he's Coil Zygarde, I don't want to be caught with my pants down trying to deal with a Coil Zygarde, because he could literally run like sub Double Dance with 1,000 arrows if he wants to. So like with Double Dance being Dragon Dance and Coil. So Ice Beam seemed like a better way to take care of that. Protect I kind of liked for a couple of reasons. One, if he goes for like Dragonium Z or Grandium Z versus me, Protect helps me mitigate that damage to some extent. It helps me scout for hidden powers on certain Pokemon, so if he wants to pack HP Grass and something, or just Grass Knot on like Starmie, for example, I can Protect and scout that out, and that's pretty nice. If I do a Toxic on another Pokemon, if I am facing down a Pokemon with Toxic, I can kind of stall it out. And then last but not least, of course, we have Stealth Rock, pretty important move this week. Damp instead of Torrent. Like, Torrent, I don't have a water attack, so it doesn't really have any use. Not that Damp does either. I don't think he has, like, Explosion on anything on his team, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't do full research to figure out what that was. But yeah, fully Fizz Def on this thing as well to try and deal with Zygarde as well as possible. And it also can kind of switch in on other things like Heatran, Rotom. Like, that's another reason I wanted special instead of physical, is in case he burns me with Rotom. That would definitely be annoying. I can also switch in very well on Regirock, so that's the thought process with that. Let's now go into the Ferrothorn. Gyro Ball, Power Whip, Toxic Spikes, with Anticipation as the ability. So it's like 3 Pokemon in a row where I don't really run the normal ability. So there's really nothing on the team that Iron Barbs is helpful for. There's no like physical attacks that I really want to switch in on that do that make contact. Besides, I guess, like Knockoff on Scrafty or something like that. But yeah, there's almost nothing else. Like, I don't really want to switch in on Scrafty because it has the fighting type moves to scare me off. And Regirock, yes, we do like resist its rock type moves, so we can switch into that. But most rock type moves don't make contact, and that thing does get like Drain Punch and Fire Punch to hit Ferrothorn anyway. So I decided to go Anticipation just so I can potentially scout for like HP Fire or Fire Punch a little bit more easily. I saw Gypsy King do this quite a lot in BBL when he had Ferrothorn on his team, so I figured I'd give it a try. Yeah, and then just the basic stab moves and Gyro Ball. Like, Gyro Ball allows us to do really good damage to Mega Pidge. It does really good damage to set up Zygarde. Does good damage to Alolan Ninetales if he's bringing that. And then Power Whip I need for Starmie and Gastrodon because those 2 Pokemon are definitely scary versus me. Toxic versus anything else that I can't really threaten. And then Spikes I like just because it puts me in a good position to, like, if I can shuffle his team around just by forcing him to switch, applying pressure with like Aerodactyl or Sneasel. He's going to be racking up damage, and it's going to get to the point where one of those 2 Pokemon will be able to kill everything because everything got in range after Spikes. So yeah, not too much to think about here. Not you know, the EV spread is just sort of mixed. I think there was some defense investment put into here, so I could take arrows as well from this Pokemon. But yeah, if he's Coil, then like Ferrothorn is bait for Zygarde, whereas like just a plain Dragon Dance variant, Ferrothorn can kind of do damage too. Next we have a actually kind of bulky Aerodactyl. It's still faster than everything on his team, which is pretty funny. I think this is faster than Mega Pidgeot still. But I wanted to put max HP on this thing because this being my rock type is my best response to Mega Pidgeot. So like we're not even taking like 30% from Timid Hurricanes on this Aerodactyl with this HP investment, so that's pretty nice. I could have gone like 4 attacks and then like had what was the other move I really wanted? Like Crunch, I think maybe was the other one I really wanted to hit like Rotom and Starmie as hard as possible, or Wing Attack I could have also put on to hit Scrafty as hard as possible. But I decided I want Roost instead, and like I can hit everything hard enough with this combination of moves. Like the only thing is like the Wing Attack would also be nice for the Scrafty, like I said, especially if it's at +1, because we could potentially outspeed a +1 Scrafty. Even with just this investment, we outspeed +1 Scrafty. But as long as I have my Mew and my Togekiss, Scrafty with DD is not actually a threat. So I decided to forego it just for Roost, just to give me the longevity. Yeah, and then these 3 moves should do well enough. I've nearly max attack investment, so this thing should still hit very hard. Then I have a Pokemon that I think is actually going to be pretty surprising in this matchup. In addition to providing insurance for DD Zygarde, I have a Scarf Mew. So this thing with a Choice Scarf can outspeed +1 Zygarde, throw off an Ice Beam versus it. Then the rest of the coverage moves that I have hit everything on his team extremely hard. So Psyshock hits basically anything that's not named Heatran or Starmie or Scrafty. And so the Aura Sphere does hit, of course, the Heatran and the Scrafty, and then the Volt Switch is really good for the Starmie. Like, Volt Switch over U-Turn, like, Volt Switch is not generally one of my favorite moves, just because it can be stopped by electric types or electric immunities, and if your Pokemon is choiced in some way, you lose so much momentum, and your opponent can take advantage of that. But here, I don't think he's going to be switching in his ground types on my Mew, so I think it's fine to do that. I don't think there's any too much fear of him stopping my momentum, so I like this Mon quite a bit. Yeah, just max special attack and enough for Zygarde, nothing too hard to think about. Then last but not least, we do have a Swords Dance Eviolite Sneasel, and so so this set is, I guess, a little bit maybe it seems odd at first. Like, Eviolite's not something you always see on Sneasel. You typically see Life Orb or Choice Band. I originally had Eviolite on here because Eviolite on Sneasel allows me to very easily take E-Speed from Zygarde. And so if you have a DD Zygarde, and I have a Sneasel that comes in versus it, obviously I threaten it with a potential Ice Shard, especially if I'm Life Orb or Choice Band or something like that. But he can easily retaliate against that by using a Extreme Speed that out-prioritizes my Ice Shard. However, if I have Eviolite, I very comfortably live a +1 Extreme Speed from full, and I can potentially retaliate with something like Icicle Crash, which is like almost guaranteed to kill as long as he's not a Yache Berry variant. I decided at the last moment that I did not want Icicle Crash, and I wanted Ice Shard instead, because Ice Shard still does pretty decent damage to Zygarde, and it allows me to threaten something like Pidgeot much better. Like +2 with Rocks Up, it's not going to live. And I have like 4 things on my team that can otherwise deal with Zygarde, so I don't need to use Sneasel. I still decided to keep the Eviolite instead of going with Life Orb, because Life Orb, like, versus anything not named Zygarde, I kind of don't need the extra damage output. So if I can use this thing on like a Gastrodon and like find an opportunity to set up, or versus like a non-invested Roserade or something like that, I think that's pretty much worth it to have that extra bulk to give me that setup opportunity. We're just running max speed, max attack, so we can speed tie with Starmie. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the team. Hope you understood my thought process. It's definitely going to be a fun game. We're going to hop right on into it. We're going to go up into team preview here versus HeraHorde, aka J Ricky, and he has brought his Roserade, Zygarde, Regirock, Starmie, Heatran, and Gastrodon. So, it's, a lot of what I expected. I definitely expected the Zygarde and the Heatran to come. Heatran's a really good response for Aerodactyl if he's packing like Shuka Berry or something like that. Regirock is also pretty good just because there's so much physical bulk. So it's going to be hard for me to break that thing. Seeing the Roserade does spook me a little bit. So in the week 1 battle that he had versus Irish Emerald, he tried a lot to get up spikes versus Irish, which I think is really good for something like Zygarde, which doesn't have a really great base attack stat, has only base 100. So just getting that little bit of chip does put things in range that otherwise wouldn't be. So seeing the Roserade there makes me very glad that I did put Roost on, but did put Defog onto my Togekiss, so I can potentially get those away. I don't want to click it if I don't have to, because I'm going to be hopefully setting up my own spikes. But it was something that I was trying to prepare for. Starmie I definitely expected. Gastrodon, it makes sense. Like, it's also a pretty good check for Aerodactyl. And to like a lesser extent, Sneasel. Was surprised not to see any way of dealing super effective damage to Mew, so like he didn't bring the Scrafty or the Rotom. But it just, means that my set of Mew is still going to be good, but it's not going to be the most potent. Like, I could have easily brought like a different set of Mew, like a setup set that could have been really good here. But I didn't, so no big deal. So in terms of leads, I like Ferrothorn versus pretty much everything except for Heatran as a lead. So I am going to lead with that and potentially hit something relatively hard with a Gyro Ball, or go for Spike, or just scout to see what he wants to do. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to hit play and get right on into this battle. So good luck, have fun to HeraHorde. He and I have only played once before, and that was in MPL Season 6. And he beat me pretty bad, like 4-0, and it was really on the backs of a bulky Roost Togekiss. And so it's funny that I'm now the one with the Togekiss on my team being able to apply pressure with Roost and stuff like that. So I lead Ferrothorn as he leads with his Roserade. My anticipation reveals that he is packing HP Fire, so I'm not going to stay in here. and see, you know, if he's going to click that or not. I'm just going to go into my Aerodactyl. He's either going to go for HP Fire, and I'm going to resist it, or he's going to be able to go for a Spike or something like that. I can immediately start applying offensive pressure. He does crit, which is like not that annoying because it doesn't really do that much to begin with. But I do find out that he does not have investment, but he is almost certainly Technician with that HP Fire. So that helps me figure out a little bit what his spread is. He's definitely at least max HP. He could be fast or he could not be. I'm anticipating to switch into his Gastrodon, so I make the double into my Ferrothorn, predicting that, which is really nice. And I'm just going to go ahead and click a Spike here as he goes on into his Roserade. So seeing this thing as a switch into Ferrothorn is pretty telling. This thing is probably max HP, max Phys Def. I stay in this time, and I click Gyro Ball. I want to try and get damage on this thing, and I also think that there's a chance that it wants to click Spike versus me, and I do want to punish that. But he instead just goes straight again for the HP Fire, and it is going to hit me for a very large chunk of damage. And I don't want to sack my Ferrothorn just yet. I can potentially come in on the Gastrodon and hit it up with Power Whip. I can use it as a free chance to get up a Spike or anything like that. I go into my Mew just because it's not going to take very much from HP Fire, or if he decides to switch it up and go for like Giga Drain or something. He crits that too, which is a little bit more annoying than the crit on the Aerodactyl. But I am just going to go for the Volt Switch. I don't know what he's going to go into, but I don't think that Gastrodon's going to be the answer, and I can basically get momentum into anything. He does go into his Starmie, and I'm thinking this is probably my best chance to go into my Sneasel. I'm just going to click Knock Off. It's either going to kill the Starmie or do a good amount of damage to anything else on the team and knock off the item, or we're just going to Speed Tie, be able to take a Hydro Pump, and we're going to be able to kill with the knockoff. And that's exactly what happens. It doesn't seem to be very offensive. Like a max HP max attack Life Orb might have still killed my Sneasel. But I don't think I had another. I guess I could have gone into Aerodactyl, and that could have been a play. But I don't know. He could have been Scarf or something like that. Arrow is looking like my best win con right now, so I don't want to go into that if I can help it. So he goes into his Regirock after I kill his Starmie. I go for Low Kick just to get damage on the Regirock. That's also going to be important to chip down for my Aerodactyl to potentially put in work in the late game, as he just gets up his rocks. So I go for a knockoff to get rid of his leftovers, get him to like 40% or so. It's not too bad. But he does throw off the Drain Punch, which is a really nice move on his part. It's basically going to heal up any knockoff damage that I would have done this turn. But I did still get rid of his leftovers in the process, so it's not all bad. Maybe I could have kept my Sneasel, but and gone into my Swampert here, because there's very little that Regirock can do to Swampert. But I didn't think that Sneasel was really worth keeping. I wasn't going to be able to set up with it based on the amount of damage that I took from the Starmie. And it wasn't really going to apply too much offensive pressure to the rest of the team. Like, it's just, without setting up a Sword Stance, it doesn't have enough power this week to do anything. I do predict the Roserade switch and go for an Ice Beam, and I do get, unfortunately for him, rewarded with a Freeze. So it's funny, if you watched, like my week 1 battle for UBL versus Deathly, I did get a freeze on his Nidoqueen. Now we've gotten a freeze on the Roserade, so definitely is unfortunate for him. I'm having ridiculous luck this past couple weeks. Unfortunately, he does thaw, and he's able to get off the Synthesis. Like, I am glad that he thawed. Like, I hate to have something like that really change the flow of the game. But it would have been nice if I could have gotten my Aerodactyl in here and either potentially threatened it out while clicking Roost, also preventing him from going for Synthesis, and keeping that thing really low would be really, really nice. But he is able to get up that health, so I'm still not upset about it. I'd rather have the cleaner game than like be able to take advantage. So I go into my Arrow as he goes into his Gastrodon, very easily takes the Stone Edge. And this thing is proving to be fully Fizz Def just based on the amount of damage that the thing took. I am glad that I have some hazards to try and punish this thing every time that it comes in. But it's just like very annoying to try and hit this thing. He makes, I guess, a nice play versus my Arrow. I switch on out into Swampert as he just goes for the EQ. You must have figured there's no way I was going to stay in here, and EQ is pretty spammable versus my team, which is nice for him. I think I just went into my Pert. I don't know if I've set up rocks yet. No, I do take this as an opportunity to set up my Stealth rocks, just because, like, this thing can't do a ton to me. Like, it could burn me, or in this case, it does end up going for Toxic, as you just saw. Like, Toxic on my Swampert is a little bit annoying, but if I play it carefully, it might be okay. With his rocks up on the field and my Ferrothorn being at the amount of HP that it's at, it's a little bit hard for me to want to switch in here on 2 EQs. I don't actually think I can take 2 EQs from this thing. I do switch on out now, and I do go into my Ferrothorn, but that's just kind of what I'm trying to be weary of, is the double move there. But he actually, sorry, the double EQ. But he actually switches out into Roserade, which is like a pretty decent switch versus my Swampert all the same. If he thought I might have Toxic on my Swampert, it made sense for him to want to switch out of Gastrodon there into his Roserade, which is not going to take any damage, of course, from the Toxic. And then he goes for the HP Fire, is able to take out my Ferrothorn. It was really tough letting my Ferrothorn go, and I think it was a mistake in the long run. Because now, not only do I not have super effective coverage for the Gastrodon, I don't have any status for the Gastrodon. But like, I couldn't switch in my Mew like I did before, because it's going to take a lot from Rocks and from HP Fire, and he already knows that I'm packing Volt Switch, gives him a better opportunity to go into Gastrodon. I can't go into Arrow because with the combination of Rocks plus HP Fire, I'm also going to be taking quite a bit of damage. So I felt like I didn't have a play. I didn't have like a better sack, but I think probably keeping Ferrothorn around would have been the better thing to do. But in any case, he brings in his Heatran and goes for Dark Pulse versus me. Does a lot of damage, definitely is max attack, probably timid rather than modest. This should have set up some alarm bells in my head that this thing might be choiced in some way. I'm not, like, at this point, like, he could still potentially be like a Power Herb Solar Beam. So I do click the Protect with my Swampert to see if I can burn his Power Herb. But he does switch out into Gastrodon, and again, that should be like a big warning sign that this is choiced in some way. If he had a better move to hit my Swampert, or the option to switch his moves, that would have been a good time to show that. But he does switch on into his Gastrodon, takes Earth Power pretty easily. Sorry, he's going to take this next Earth Power pretty easily. I just protected on the previous turn. He's going to go for Scald versus me. This plus the Toxic is going to put me very low. And he's going to be able to recover very easily on this. I had another choice here. Like, do I want to preserve my Swampert as a sack? Or do I just want to try and go for Earth Power, get this thing as low as possible after it goes for the recover? Like, it'll probably be at like 75 to 80% after it takes this Earth Power. And so I do decide to stay in and hit this thing. There was like a really good chance that this Gastrodon was going to be able to clean up my team. If I hadn't just landed that Spadef drop with my Earth Power. But because I did, I actually have a little bit of a chance of scaring this thing out with my Togekiss. So Togekiss with Dazzling Gleam can potentially two-shot this now that it's at -1. And so it stinks because basically now my Togekiss, I'm giving it up to get rid of this Gastrodon. It doesn't leave me with any other option for dealing with Zygarde. Because I take the rocks, he's going to be able to Toxic me. It's definitely going to be annoying. But I do get him very low here. And if I keep going for a Dazzling Gleam, like, I'm going to be able to keep him very low at the point where potentially my Mew or my Aerodactyl might be able to take it out. I'm hoping that maybe he'll make the switch here. That's the best case scenario for me, because next time he has to bring it in on Rocks and Spikes, and then he'll definitely be in range of getting like two-shot by Aerodactyl or something like that. So that's exactly the play that he makes. So I'm thinking, okay, this is actually, it's still not impossible for me to win, as long as his Heatran is not Scarf. So if it is Scarf, then I'm in a little bit of trouble because I did not EV my Aerodactyl to outspeed Scarf Heatran. I probably should have, but again, I wanted a response for the Aerodactyl, for the Pidgeot, and that was my Aerodactyl. He outspeeds here, but that doesn't necessarily confirm that he's Scarf or not. My Togekiss is very slow. But so basically, like, if I can take this thing out with EQ, I still have a little bit of a chance in this game, because I could potentially go for like Scarf Psyshock and do a lot of damage if this thing is removed. But no, it is of course Scarf, like I've been alluding to this whole game. and he's going to be able to take out my Aerodactyl. That's going to leave me just with my Scarf Mew. And he has Heatran, Gastrodon, Zygarde, and one other Pokemon left that I can't remember. Yeah, I honestly cannot remember. We'll see it when we get to the team preview. But I am going to be able to outspeed the Heatran, go for Aura Sphere, and take it out. And then he's going to be able to go into his Zygarde. And it turns out this is a choice-banded Adamant Zygarde, so he's going to be able to throw off an E-Speed and take out our Mew and net himself a very comfortable 3-0 victory. So I don't think I really played this game that well. There's also, I think, a little bit of a failing in prep. Like, I prepped really, really hard for Zygarde, as you guys saw. I had, like, 3, like, almost fully Fizz-Def Mons, a Mon with priority to outspeed it, a Mon with a Choice Scarf that could outspeed it and take it out. But I lacked any sort of oomph on my team. So I couldn't really break through the... Regirock was the last Pokemon that was there. I totally forgot about Regirock. I lacked really any ability to threaten any of his bulky Mons. Like the Gastrodon, like I said, was such a problem once my Ferrothorn went down. I was lucky that it didn't get 5 kills versus me. Like, it literally could have... Or 4 kills versus me. It could have killed Swampert, Arrow, Mew, and Togekiss if I hadn't gotten that Spadef drop. So that was potentially bad. Roserade was also a huge issue. I'm surprised he gave it up to my Psyshock. I don't know what he was thinking, what move I might go for. Maybe he was expecting me to go for Volt Switch once again. But Roserade I had no way to beat, really. Yeah, I just was like totally prepped for the wrong matchup here. I don't want to say too much because I am gonna, hopefully gonna make playoffs. And if we do make playoffs, I would love to rematch with Hera. There's definitely some other things I would include on my team in order to deal with some sort of fat stuff that he brought. We'll see what happens in the next one. Hera out-prepped me and outplayed me, and hats off to him for this game. He's going to improve to 2-0, but we are unfortunately going to drop to 1-1 as we prepare for our Week 3 game. It was going to be versus Irish Emerald. I don't know if this has been announced yet or not, but I think it has in the Discord, so I'll go ahead and say it. Irish is actually dropping out of UBL, unfortunately. He is being replaced by Dyeittight, and so he is going to be my new Week 3 opponent. And I'm very much looking forward to this battle. Dyeittight's team is very scary. It features the likes of Lando T, Mega Heracross, things like that. A lot of really major physical threats. It's going to present a big challenge in terms of prep, but I'm looking forward to trying to come up with some creative options for defeating that team. And, I'm also looking forward to the chance to bounce back from a kind of bad loss this week to Hera, like I said. Like, it was a 3-0, but I had no foothold in this game. I got, like, almost no momentum. Like, other than, like, turn 2 when I went into Ferrothorn on his Gastrodon switch in, I did not, like, get one good play in this game. So, yeah, definitely want to try and turn it around so we can continue our title defense for UBL. If you're excited to see us bounce back and try and begin another playoff run, make sure you drop a like and leave a sub on my channel, so that way you can catch my next UBL battle, and you can stay up to date on all my other latest and greatest gaming and Pokemon content. Thank you guys for watching, and until the next time, I'll see you guys later.